Republican congressman from Texas and, of course, a former presidential candidate himself. He's calling in today on the telephone from Texas. Congressman Paul, always good to talk to you. If a Paul supporter is watching the debate tonight and needs to be convinced by Mitt Romney, what does Romney have to do you think?
Make sure he sounds a little bit different than the other and be convincing that his policies are a lot different. So many people that have joined the freedom movement were frustrated, with the whole process because they can't see enough difference. So he has to be different. But unfortunately, when it comes to whether it's the foreign policy, they're very similar, or whether it has to do with the Federal Reserve, it's similar. So I think our supporters see too much similarity. And I think he has to show that he is quite different, just not on management style, but really philosophically. That's what so many people are looking for.
How do you think those supporters who had a lot of enthusiasm for you in the primaries when you run for president, how do you think they'll break down in terms of their support in this election? I mean, is it 80-20 Romney? Is it closer to 50-50? I mean, who do you think they'll move towards?
I think the best word is break down. They'll probably go different places. Some will be angry at the Republicans for the way they were treated at the convention, and they might not show up. Some may vote Libertarian. Some, may go with Romney. There's actually some of the young people, because of foreign policy issue, might even go with Obama. So it's hard to say. I know one thing for certain. That they're not all going to the one place because they're very individualistic and they don't see the consequences exactly the same. So I think it would be very difficult to predict.
Could be a big deal, by the way, in especially some of these swing states if they don't show up. Who are you going to vote for?
Haven't decided yet. At least I haven't decided. I've decided not to announce it. So no, I'm going to sort of sit tight for a little bit longer.
No, that's fine if you don't want to announce it, obviously. And some people have made a big deal about how how you haven't endorsed Romney. But have you really not decided, or you're just not going to tell us?
In a way, about voting for somebody, I obviously didn't. I haven't announced in support for Romney, so that means that's very unlikely. And I don't think anybody thinks I'm going to vote for Obama. So. It's back to that frustration level of not seeing a dramatic choice in the way the system works and the inability. Like tonight, there's a debate going on, and if you come to this conclusion that the candidates aren't all that different, why do we have to just listen to two of them? I mean, there are other people who technically are capable of winning because they're on a lot of ballots.
Like Gary Johnson, you're talking about.
Yeah, in this country. You have probably less democracy than in even some of these other countries that we're trying to badger into being good, follows good democracy.
So you'll vote for him then, probably?
Pardon me?
Gary Johnson. You'd probably support him.
I haven't decided that, no.
It's interesting. Is there anything, but let me ask you one more question before I let you go, because we have all this talk about the undecided voters out there. I think Reuters said it's about 6% of the electorate, and the different polls say different things. Is there something, as you said, you're not going to vote for the president, is there something that Mitt Romney could still do at this late hour to convince you, Ron Paul, to support him?
Bring the troops home, and quit this preaching of a foreign policy where he wants to expand our presence overseas, and that's a big thing with especially the young people that have been in the freedom movement. So the foreign policy would have to change, and he'd have to give more than token support for a token audit of the Federal Reserve. He'd have to say, well, there's something wrong with central banking and economic planning, because that is the reason we have such difficulty in the economy because of Federal Reserve policy. So likelihood of hearing this is very, very, very slim. And maybe saying, how would you balance a budget? And during our campaign, we had a precise plan of cutting $1 trillion and balancing the budget in 3 years. But, we're in this horrendous crisis, and neither one of them are going to say anything, oh, well, maybe we ought to cut something. There's no proposal to cut any actual money. It's always this tinkering around with these massive automatic increases, and the American people are starting to wake up and realize that it's all fiction and that they're not serious.
All right, Congressman Paul, thanks as always. We appreciate it.